it's Amy Anamkara, and welcome to another one of my fun little videos. Today I have Tammy, Theis, Satterlee. How's that, Tammy? Is that good?
That's perfect. You said
Okay,
it perfect.
yay. I struggled with that for a while. And Tammy and I just recently met. A friend of mine said to me, I think I have a gal that you'd really like to meet. And so I reached out to Tammy, and we have a lot in common, and I don't even think you know how much we have in common. So we're gonna just kind of chat a little bit about what Tammy does and that kind of good stuff, and we're just gonna just chat basically. So Tammy is she lives in Milford in Connecticut. I'm just gonna read her bio. So Tammy is an ordained interfaith and interspiritual minister, and she's a spiritual counselor, companion, and teacher who is dedicated to helping others to develop their own unique relationship with spirit by connecting to their own true wisdom. She leads worship and is the director at Seymour Congregational Church, UCC. In addition, she officiates weddings, end of life celebrations, and baby blessings. Her spiritual counseling includes Gestalt experiential dream work. That's one thing, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sacred ritual ceremony or sacred ritual ceremony, soul collage. I'm actually interested in knowing about that. Heart
Sure.
math, writing, prayer, Reiki, communicating with nature, travel, and other creative and expressive art modalities. And you're doing retreats now, and your whole world is just opening up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know that you have a big event coming up, and you're
Mm-hmm.
kind of a
Mm-hmm.
transition, a numerical transition.
Mm-hmm.
So, you want to talk about that, or whatever you want to talk
I
about?
do. I
How was
totally want to talk about it.
how
But
was the
first,
bio? Was the bio okay, or did I miss?
no, the bio was
Okay.
like totally spot on. Yeah. So, um, what I would what I'd add to that is, I work a lot with people that are really struggling with reconnecting with their inner child. And I think people are drawn to that kind of work with me in particular because I have 25 years of experience as a early childhood teacher and special ed teacher. So um, while I was doing that kind of work, I was doing early intervention and going into people's homes and really learning how to teach parents how to play. And what happens is as people start to grow up, they're so focused on, getting a job, going to college, becoming parents themselves, all of the adulting stuff, that child gets kind of locked away and forgotten about. And with that, play gets locked away as well. So I would add that. That's super important for the work that I do. And I just want to take a moment to honor the word gal. Gal is a word
Can
like
I say that?
you can.
Oh,
You
okay.
totally say gal. I feel like gal is a word that we need to like bring back. I don't hear it enough. It's like, yeah, I'm hanging out with the gals. Um, so yeah, the gal, I like being a gal. I've never really felt like I belonged. So I really feel good about being called a gal. So thank
Aw,
you.
you're
Yeah.
welcome. You're so
Yeah.
welcome. So I have a question about the inner child.
Mm-hmm.
Is the inner when you say that you do work with the inner child, so the inner child is that something that's always hurt?
No. Mm-mm. No, the inner child is not always hurt.
Okay.
We all have an inner child. We all have, and let me just clarify that spiritual direction or spiritual companioning is completely different from clinical counseling. So this kind of work talks about it revolves around letting go of um, the black and whiteness of the world. It's about getting comfortable with making mistakes. It's about taking risks to try new things, to approach life in a new manner. It's about getting in touch with our curiosity and opening ourselves to the questions, reconnecting with our imagination, our playfulness, just getting plain old silly, letting ourselves get comfortable with the uncomfortable. No, as adults, we are really uncomfortable looking ridiculous in front of other people,
Yeah, we were just
other
talking about
adults.
that, right? We were just talking about how we both
Yeah,
were nervous to do this and why, right?
yeah.
Because we
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be foolish, we don't want to say the wrong thing, we don't want to be ridiculed, all of those things where as a child, they're just they're just so open. They're
Mm-hmm.
open to all kinds of experiences.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, children come into this world just so innocent and pure and perfect in every way. And then as we get older, we start to cut parts of ourselves off. There's a Robert Bly talks about this bag that we carry around us that's like all of the parts of ourselves that we've detached from as we've grown up. And it's like, oh, well, this silly part of me is no longer welcome here. So let me just cut that part of me off and I'll stick it into the bag. And this part of me that makes mistakes is not welcome here. So let me just chop that part off. And before you know it, you're like this, barely a human being, well,
When
hopefully
you
you catch up.
when you said that, I was like, you're like a flat Stanley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Flat Stanley. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're relying on other people to bring those experiences to you, right? Like Flat Stanley is being brought all over the world because of other people, but it's so much more exciting and fulfilling if we can have agency to do those things and make our choices on our own,
So are you friends with your inner child? Do you have a good relationship with your inner child? Was that something that you worked on? Was it something that was easy for you?
Oh, I mean, it's taken a long time to totally reconnect with her. Um, and I have a great relationship with her. I think that one of the most challenging things is trusting her, trusting that she is the one who really knows what's best for me, like time to take a break, time to, make a choice to do something that's fulfilling for your heart and your soul. You don't have to keep doing. You could just be. You could turn on the TV if you want, or you can, make some art, or you could go on a walk. That was one of the biggest things. But the other is, and, I kind of alluded to it when I was talking about the word gal. I really struggled with feeling like I fit in because I growing up, I didn't feel like I was pretty enough, smart enough, good enough, had enough of the right clothes, all of the things that I think as women, we can in some way, shape or form connect to that sort of kind of memory in some way. And so she felt neglected, where she just wanted to be loved up, and she is loved up. She's totally loved up now. But it's like any relationship. You've got to nurture any relationship, whether it's with different parts of who you are, or your friends, or your family, your children, your spouse or significant other. You have to remember that they're there.
Right.
Notice them, have gratitude and thank them. And one thing that we don't always think about is forgive them, right? So sometimes, like in my experience, I made a lot of mistakes in my life. I think everybody has made mistakes in their lives that I'll call them regrets. I don't like typically refer to the mistakes that I've made as had regrets, but I think that's a word that a lot of people can relate to. But mistakes that I made because I didn't know better, at the time. So I made the best choice with what I had at that time. And so I think sometimes we get in the habit of like blaming ourselves for things and being upset with ourselves for different things. But really, the truth of the matter is we did our best with what we had at the time. And so a big part of connecting and reconnecting and developing that relationship with your inner child is about, you know, be accepting that the choices were made. And anytime that, you know, forgiveness is needed, just forgiving the fact that, you know, we're not perfect. We
Right.
make mistakes, you know?
And I think also, having along with that is having the accountability, rather than
Mm-hmm.
making excuses. It's important to own up to, the screw ups because,
Mm-hmm.
you do it.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Let me tell you, if I have made 10 mistakes by 10 a.m., I mean, I'm wondering what the heck is happening.
Right, right.
I mean, I tell my kids, I tell everyone, but I tell my kids all the time, every single thing I've learned by accident because I've made some kind of a mistake to get me through the process, you know? So once in a while I get a lucky break and there's no mistakes made. But a lot of times it's because I've made a big fat mistake.
Well, and you learn more through mistakes rather than what are you going to learn if you're passing through life doing everything right and
Oh
not
yeah, totally. Let me
right,
tell you, girl, I've made some mistakes like 100 times, never learning anything. And it's like, okay, number 11, I am not doing that again.
right, right.
So, and that I think that goes back to the accountability, right? Like we can make a choice to be conscious or unconscious with the way we go about our lives. And so we can just unconsciously be making the same mistake over and over and over and over, like, well, why isn't this working out? Well, you keep doing this, you're blaming the
Exactly.
other. And sooner or later you got to say, all right, what you got to look at yourself. What am I doing here? What can I do differently?
Yeah, it's exhausting, right? If you keep
Yeah,
making
it can be. It
same
can be.
over and over.
Yeah. But it really comes down to being present and being conscious to your decisions and how you're making them. And even still, you could be as present and consciously aware of the choices you're making and still make a mistake,
Right.
you know?
Yep.
So, so yeah. So, um, yeah. So I've made a lot of mistakes and I'm living, I made it through to the other side. And that inner child work is about getting comfortable with making mistakes. Like it's a risk to go out on a limb and try something new and to do something different. And um, it's not always comfortable, but you know, it's funny. I was thinking about how you and I were going to be talking today, and you're the death doula, and I'm over here like, hey, let's go play. But it's all the living, right? Like you
Right.
have to live. Nobody's getting out of this alive. And like dying is part of living. It's like the whole process. It's like it's all totally interconnected. And so, I got to where I am and I'm feeling so good about where I am right now because I've seen all, I'm sure there's mistakes I haven't realized I've made yet, but I feel like on this side of things, you brought up that, I'm turning that a big event's coming and I'll be turning 50 in August. But even before that, I'm going to be a grandma next month. And um, I don't have my parents. My parents are deceased. I nearly lost my daughter 2 years ago in a horrible car accident. I lost my sister-in-law when she was 40 years old. I have, a lot of really important people in
Mhm.
my life that are no longer here. And I've had my own health crisis, at a point where I was like, oh my God, am I going to even make it to see my daughter graduate high school? And so, 50 is like a big freaking deal. You know, I thought 21 was going to be it, 25, 30, 40 felt like, whatever. But 50 feels like a big deal. And um, I just want to make sure I'm living the best life I've got. So what I wanted to kind of talk about is how turning 50 has really shifted the way I live my life. Like, I feel like I was on a good trend of living my life to the fullest, but when I turned 49, I was really aware that, like, there were things on my bucket list. If I didn't consciously make the choice to do the things, I wasn't going to do it. There was no way I was going to make it happen. So I just, this is my blessed badass year. Mm-hmm. And that's I made an Instagram account to, like, just sort of document everything that's going to happen, or that I'm doing. I'm saying yes to the things I always found reasons to say no to. I mean, and some of them are, like, just really silly things. Like, I always wanted to take a pottery class. When I was in high school, I loved my pottery class. I really wanted to go to art school, and my dad was like, "Tammy, you're never going to make any money being an artist. You know, you need a job that's going to pay you money, blah, blah, blah." So I went to school to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. You know, I loved being a teacher in a lot of ways. I really loved it, but it wasn't fulfilling all of my needs in every single way that I had hoped it would. Taught me a lot. So I signed up with the adult ed, and I took a pottery class, and among others, you know, so that's just like one simple teeny weeny thing. I just
thing, though, it's not a teeny weeny thing, because, you know, we're so shackled and like I said, you know, fear and judgment, and, you know, all these silly things that just keep us from having fun and just, you know, learning and creating. Those are things that are natural to us, and we shut them down.
Well, it's so damn hard to say yes to these things that we really enjoy. Like, what is up with that? So this year has really been an investigation for me. Like, why am I saying no to these things? You know, in silly things. Like, I have a couple of friends have been after this, and this is, I'm not saying this to sound privileged, even though I know it might sound a little privileged. But I broke down and I started paying somebody to clean my house because I was feeling I wasn't having enough time to do the things that really need to be done around here. You know, I'm a single person, and I work a lot of hours, and then I have at the church, and then I have my side hustle of doing retreats and all that kind of thing. And I finally broke down and hired somebody, and she comes twice a month. And it's like the best gift I could have ever given myself, to have to pay somebody to do that. And it's amazing to me how much cleaning my house and not having the time to do it got in my way of inviting people over to hang out, because I was like, oh my gosh, my house is a mess. I don't want to have anybody over here. And now I'm like, oh, okay. She was here. She cleans. Like, everything is clean in this house, so I can invite people over, you know? So it's like, we put these obstacles in our way that we don't even sometimes realize are there. Right. And so it's really like slowing down and allowing ourselves to notice what we're doing. And it goes back to making some of those decisions and taking responsibility for how our life is going. And, you know, what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And when we do that, we're able to make different choices that are more fulfilling for us, you know? And another part of that I think really is important is getting comfortable with feeling what sensations feel like in our body. I think sometimes we are so shut off from the physical sensations of joy or excitement or anticipation that we don't even remember. We have no cellular memory of what it's like to feel good. So it's almost like we can't even crave it anymore, because what we do know, what we do feel is the anxiety, the stress, the oh no, I'm don't running out of time or whatever,
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Right. Right. So you turning 50, you said you're turning 50 in August.
Yep, August 1st
And you're
happens to be
doing
Jerry Garcia's birthday as well. For him, who's
and
a deadhead.
you're doing something, you're doing something fun for yourself. You're celebrating yourself.
I'm celebrating me, girl. I am feeling like, well, I'm doing a lot of really good things for myself. And a lot of them are super simple, like painting my fingernails or just turning on the TV and watching it. But I'm doing some other really great things. I've got plans with some of my friends, and my kids are having a party for me. I really want to tell you all about that, but I can't, because if people come,
Right.
they might know too much, and then I can't invite them.
I'll have to do it in the yard.
So, yeah, so that's happening. And I'm going to be a grandma, like it's,
In like a few weeks, right?
yeah, like she's due in 5 weeks. It's like super rad. I can't even believe that my son is 28 years old and that I was a baby when I had him, and that's the other thing. It's like I grew up, I went to college, I had a kid, I was married, I did the things that I thought adults had to do. And yeah, so I lived to tell about that. And
Yeah.
and now I'm on this side, and I feel like life is just really super great, like to be able to choose the things that I want to do, and the things that are exciting to me and fun. And I feel like there's something I just knocked off my bucket list the other day, but I totally can't remember what it was. Maybe it'll come to me before we finish.
Okay. All right. So,
Oh, I
what?
remember. Listen, I might be turning 50, but the ADD is still here.
It doesn't go away.
It doesn't. No. So this was the thing. I stood up in front of others at a storytelling event, and I told a story in front of people that I did not know, totally unrehearsed, totally without notes, and I got some laughs. And it was like one of those things I always, always, always wanted to do. Like I would love to go up on the Moth and, tell a story.
So, the other day when I met you in your office, you were telling, a story about your aunt's funeral,
Mhm.
and just the way that you told the story, it was fabulous. So you are
Mhm.
a storyteller. I think we all are storytellers, but I think it's a lost art.
Mhm.
We have
Yeah.
to practice it, right?
Mhm.
But I think you're very gifted in that
Thank
area.
you.
You should keep
Thank you. Thank you. Well,
doing
I think that the thing I really appreciate about stories is they're playful, right? Like when you tell a story, when you tell your own story, you get to remember these parts of who you are that we sometimes, we lock away. And and in that remembering, our imagination is rekindled.
it.
And it's funny because the more you tell a story, the more it kind of changes a little bit, right? Like if it was a hard story to tell, it might get a little easier to tell. Or if it's a funny story, it might get funnier.
Yeah.
Sometimes you fall flat on your face, but that's a risk you got to take.
And you discover, like there are certain like poignant pieces of the story that that stun you when you
Mhm.
go back and you tell a story about yourself where you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. Right?
Totally, 100,000
Yeah,
percent.
you don't get it.
Actually, that happened to me when I was telling you my
I
story.
I know. I know that that happened.
Yeah, it totally happened because I think, so I was telling you about when my mom died. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And I was telling you about some of the last things that she said to me. And um, as I was saying those things, I hadn't told that story in a long time. And as I was telling this story, I was really feeling the emotion that really goes with it. But it felt like more like a tender and sweet emotion rather than the grieving emotion that originally went with it. In fact, I was talking to somebody about that exact thing today, and so when my mom passed, my mom, I grew up I grew up as a parentified child, which means that I was given a lot of adult responsibilities as a young person. I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and I have a sister who's um, 7 years younger than me that I had to really take care of because my parents were not able to. My dad was sick with Hodgkin's disease, and my mom struggled with her mental health, and then she had MS and was really physically and cognitively disabled. And so my relationship with her was really complicated because by my early 20s, I had to be her conservator of her body, of her health, and all of her finances. And I had to make my mom's decisions for her from a really young age. And people don't stop making their decisions easily. It was a fight, and I was forced into having to do this to keep her safe. And so I lost my mom in a lot of ways as a young woman. And so by the time I lost her to death, it was a different kind of grieving than what I experienced with when I lost my dad. So um, many people in my life never knew my mom because she was in a nursing home for like 20 years. So, and nobody knew. I didn't talk about this with other people because it was just too hard to talk about what I was experiencing. People would say, very well-meaning people would say, "Oh, how's your mom? How's your mom doing? Oh, say hi to your mom." And I'm thinking to myself, it's not good, but you're like, "Oh, she's doing fine," and by fine, I meant there have been no changes. Everything sucks as much as it has always sucked, like there are no changes.
Right.
But like I could go on and on and on about that, but I chose not to. And
Because
so,
right? Because it's easy. Because
what's
it's
that?
because
Oh
it's
yeah, it's easy, and nobody can understand that unless they've experienced something close to it. Um, so anyway, the conversation I was having today about that time right before my mom died, that week before she died, um, I reached out to the pastor at my church. His name is Adam. He's a great guy. And when my mom went into hospice right before she died, I asked him to come and see her and to pray with us. And that, I'm going to just take a side note to say this thing. Asking for help is so hard. And so I think that's something that we all experience
yes.
in a lot of different ways. So I just want to acknowledge that asking him to come to the nursing home was not only hard because it's hard for me to ask for help because I'm used to boom, 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 powering through stuff. But to ask for the help and then even more significantly, for him to be witness to something that was like one of the most vulnerable parts of who I am
To let
was
him in, right?
to let him
In- Yeah.
in to see what was really happening, like what, and by what was really happening, it wasn't like it was a secret to the doctors and nurses, but to the people in my life who saw me as a leader and as a person who knows how to, take charge and be in charge and be responsible and never break a sweat and all of those things. To invite him into that place of vulnerability was a really hard thing to do, but it was also like a gift I gave to myself to expand my heart, right? Like my heart was broken already because of this experience with my mom. And like Leonard Cohen says, the cracks are where the light comes in.
Right.
And that is so true. And by inviting Adam in to that experience, it was like it helped to crack it open even more, right? To allow someone else to see that vulnerable part of what was happening.
Well,
And so,
not only that, but it also allowed you to be the daughter, to just
uh-huh.
be the daughter, right?
Oh
You're
yeah,
not managing. You just for that,
absolutely.
that small amount of time, you could be her daughter.
Absolutely. And not only the daughter, um, but not have to be my sister's caretakers because I have two younger sisters, right? And I'm the oldest. So we were, I was able to surrender that part as
Right.
well. So I wasn't just given the opportunity to be a daughter. It was like, it felt like even more. Yeah. So thank you for saying that. So it was profound. And like, and then of course he was like absolutely brilliant in helping to plan her funeral and all of that. But I remember about a month or so after I saw him, I really wanted to acknowledge that, like I really, and I became so emotional just thanking him, like, because it was like there were so many other things happening when my mom was in the process of dying that I almost couldn't appreciate the experience as much as I could have the experience of having Adam there.
Right.
So it kind of felt like I really wanted to let myself be seen at an even more exposed level, heart exposed level. And so the reason I'm sharing this is because our conversation last week, where we were talking about some of the things that happened as my mom was dying, reminded me of that time. And then, of course, yesterday was Mother's Day, and my daughter, you know how social media is, old pictures pop up, and a picture of my mom and my daughter popped up. And it was from 11 years ago. And the caption said something about my daughter saying that she loved to go visit my mom. And you got to remember, it was hard for me to visit my mom. So I was probably feeling some shock around, like, how can you love to go there? Right. And I said to her, what do you love about it? And she said, I love to look at Grandma Pat's face. And just being reminded of that yesterday when that picture popped up was like such a tender moment. It was like, here she was, like in a 9 or a 10-year-old kid who, and this goes back to inner child stuff, right? Like, here's a child just so pure and able to take it all in and able to see the beauty in something that is, for what for me was absolutely horrible at the time.
Right.
And so seeing that photo yesterday was such a healing moment that started with the conversation that we had last week. And this morning I was thinking about it again and I decided to repost it. But I also was like, I want to reach back out to Adam because I mean, Adam and I are friends, but now that I'm a minister, and that, I'm leading a church, I have a different level of appreciation for what he was doing for me in that time. And so I called him and we had a great talk and I thanked him again. And yeah, it was just, and the thing is, Adam's a minister, I'm a minister, but the thing is, you don't have to be a minister to do this kind of thing, to show up for people, to really see them, to give them an opportunity to be seen exactly as they are, and to be an open and welcoming place. Because I think ultimately what we all want, even though we might be scared as shit about it, is we want to be seen
Right.
for who we are, you know?
Wow.
All right, let me
I
step
don't
down
think
off my
I don't
pulpit.
I don't think that's not where we were going to go, but that was like really great. Yeah. Yeah, you're
Listen,
absolutely right.
I had no idea that was, we could thank my mom for that because, she had to die so I could tell that story.
Yeah.
I can't help but like be ridiculous and make a joke out of it too. Me
Now
too.
I know you wanted to talk a little bit about your retreat, or do you want to do that?
Oh yeah. So I don't know exactly what I want to say, but what I do want to say is, well, you and I are going to do some fun stuff together. We're going to do some really fun stuff together. I don't know if you want to talk about that now, but we could talk about it we can do this again, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to do
but
it.
Podcast.
Yeah.
We have to come up with a name.
No.
So I just finished doing a retreat at Trinity Retreat Center in West Cornwall, Connecticut. And it was called Play, Imagination, and Laughter as Spiritual Practice. And it was, I think I want to respect the confidentiality of the people that were there. But what I want to say about it is, I think that it's intimidating to say yes to going to a retreat sometimes, right? Because we're saying yes to spending money on doing something that, right. Like maybe I should be buying, a such and such instead of going on a retreat or whatever. And so
yeah, it can feel selfish.
It can feel selfish. And you know what? I'm here to say it's not. It's, if anything, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think that in this day and age, we've really forgotten about how important it is to really tend to our needs on a spiritual and emotional level, to take care of what's happening in here, because we can't be all the things that we're expected to be if we're not tending to and nurturing the self that's within us. Right. And so this particular retreat was it was fun. It was like all fun stuff. So, sometimes we don't think about play as doing the work, like we're like, all right, well, I'll go on this retreat because I'm going to do yoga and it's going to be, the studies show that it does this, that, or the other thing, or I'm going to do this retreat because it's going to help me with that problem or whatever. But when you hear about a play retreat, it's like, oh, what am I just going to go and have fun? Well, yeah, you are going to have fun, but you're going to have the opportunity to connect with this part of yourself that just doesn't have the opportunity to get out the way it used to. And this retreat, there were 12 people, men and women.
Fabulous. Yeah, 12.
It was great. Yeah, it was really great. And they were between 30 and I want to say like 85.
Wow.
So people from all different ages, all different walks of life, all different kinds of experiences. Um, there were former military people there. There were former clergy there. There were just regular old ordinary people like myself there. There were like all kinds of people. And it was so beautiful to witness. It was a 3-day retreat. And on the first day, the first night, everyone was like, they came and they're like, all right, I'm here. I want to do everything right. I'm going to take notes and I'm going to follow all the rules and I'm going to play nice with others and da, 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 da. And I sent them, we did a little meditation and I sent them home with a little bit of back to their rooms to have like a little assignment. And the next morning, it was the same thing. They woke up, they're like sitting in their chairs, they've got their binder, their pens, they're writing everything down. And by the end of the retreat, they had completely shed that layer of themselves, like they like slowly started to take risks. At first, I sent them off and they all went to their separate corners to like play. And then slowly someone took a hula hoop out and started hula hooping. And another woman went over there to the hula hoops and she's like, oh, I always wanted to hula hoop and I don't know how. And the woman was like, oh, well, I'll show you, just do this. And they're like showing each other how to hula hoop. And the one girl, she just couldn't stop. She was like hulaing like crazy. And she's like, and a woman said, you could conduct meetings hula hooping. And she's like, yeah, I could conduct meetings. And so she started pretending like she was conducting a work meeting while she's hula hooping, right? She's like this. And then this other woman comes over and she's hula hooping and she says, yeah, this is pretty good. Like you could run for president hula hooping. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to run for president while I'm hula hooping. She's like, so she acts out like, she's going to run for president. And the other woman's like, yeah, and I'm going to run for vice president. And from there, everything just being silly, like everything. And it was like pretending to run for president, like to pretend to do this adult thing. Like it's almost like playing dress up, right?
Right.
Slowly, they started unpacking all of the layers that kept them from tapping into that playful self.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was so like they had such a great time. And one of the guys said, this was so transformative. He said, I came here and joined this group and we were all strangers. And I'm leaving here with a bunch of new friends. We're exchanging contact. We're going to get together. This was life-changing. And so that's what that's kind of, I think where I'm going in my world is to do some more play retreats. And I'll go back to Trinity next year, but I'm going to plan to do some here in Connecticut. We just need to play more. And the thing about play is there are so many benefits that we just don't even think about. Play helps us solve problems. Play lets us try out new things without, real serious risk. We can, like if you're making something, building a tower, you can take the risk of adding another block. And if it falls over, it's only blocks, you know. We can use our imagination. We have an opportunity to be more introspective or to work on our social emotional skills, take turns, share, say no to someone, like, can I play that game? No, I'm not done with it. You can have it when I'm done, like all of these skills that we try to teach young children. And, it's like coming back to basics in a lot of ways.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're going to keep doing these retreats.
I'm totally keeping it going on. Keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? I'm gonna keep
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah. So do
Yeah.
you have one planned or you don't have one planned yet?
I don't have one planned. I'm actually my next I know where it's going to be. It's going to be at Sticks and Stones in
Okay.
Newtown.
Mhm.
I don't have the date planned yet because you know what I want to do, and I've got to stick some feelers out there. Is I'd like to do like a 4 week summer camp for teachers, but it would be like one Friday a week. So it would be 4 Fridays, 4 weeks in a row for teachers
That
during
would
the summer.
be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It would be amazing to give that
Yeah.
opportunity to teachers because you were a teacher. You know what it was like.
Girl, I was a
I was a
teacher.
teacher. I know what it
You
was like.
were?
See, these are things that we have so much in common that, yeah.
This is why we get along. We understand each other.
Mhm.
We don't even know what the other is yet. We really only talked for a couple hours the other
I
day.
know. I know. We're new friends, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So,
yeah. Friends with a capital F.
yes.
We're fun friends.
Yes.
We're going to have so much
Yes.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what we should tell the people is about our death cafe that we're
Okay.
going to do.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I got to open up my calendar so I can
Okay.
remember what the date is. So we're going to do 2 death cafes. We have one scheduled for July 16th at 7 o'clock at Seymour Congregational Church, which is at 45 Broad Street, Seymour, Connecticut. You can also go
You
to
don't have to be a member of the church.
No, you don't have to be a member. Just come. www.seymourct.church
I'll put it in the notes.
for that one. And then we're going to do another one, a beach day death cafe or beach night at 7 o'clock at Fort Trumbull Beach in Milford, Connecticut. Bring a beach chair or a blanket.
It'll be a full moon.
And it's going to be a full moon. Is that going to be weather dependent or are we going to bring umbrellas if it's raining?
I don't know. We'll see.
All right. How are we going to plant that confirmation in the world?
It's going to be a
How,
beautiful night because
okay.
it's always a beautiful. It's always
All
beautiful.
right. It's totally going to be a beautiful night.
Yeah, and bring bug spray.
Yeah, totally bring bug spray. And yeah, so they can go to our social media or webpage or whatever for that.
We're gonna get going on that. Put that out into the ether for whoever wants to come. And if you don't know what a death cafe is, it's really an informal meeting. I don't even want to say meeting, but gathering where we just talk about topics around death and dying. It's not meant to be heavy. It's not a grief support. It's just really for people that just want to, talk about those topics, death curious.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just meant to get people talking and feeling comfortable around the subject because so many of us just cannot bring ourselves there. And we are all going to be there one day.
Yeah, I can't get out of it.
No, we cannot.
And you know what else? This kind of goes along with what we were saying about telling stories, but it's also in relationship to death cafes, is that a lot of times once you start talking, whether it's about death or sharing stories, you start to see the threads, the common threads, the things that connect us to other people. And that's one of the most exciting parts about being a human is recognizing how connected we actually are.
And you just said something that kind of hit me that, not everybody gives birth or experience, but everybody experiences death. Whether it's the death of a loved one, a pet, themselves, everyone is touched by it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I just think it's so important that we all just give ourselves space and opportunity, and there's joy. There's joy in it. There's humor, right? You were telling, very funny stories, I mean,
yeah.
But it's all about talking about it and sharing the stories. It's
Yeah, and just, making it normal, right? It's not like it, like you said, we're not going to get out of this. It's going to happen to all of us. And is it scary? Sure, because anything that we don't know the exact thing of what happens is scary. That's just normal. It's normal. And it's exciting. And it's also, it could be so healing and wonderful in so many ways. I mean, I can say, you know, it was in my mother's dying that my relationship with her was healed in a very, very profound way.
yeah,
And so I am a very firm believer that anything is possible if we allow it.
agreed.
Yeah.
So before we go,
Okay.
I have I do tarot cards, but
Ooh.
this is like a different deck. So I'm going to pick out a card for you.
Okay. Are you going to read it and tell me what it means?
No, I'm not going to read it. Yes, of course I'm going to read it to you. Okay,
I
so
hope it's a juicy one.
hang on. Whoop.
Oh my gosh. Should I think of something while you're doing it?
No, it's just like, let's just see what's going to come up for you.
All right. I'm thinking, even though you said don't do it.
What the universe wants, a little message for you.
Okay, good. Because that's what I always want to know. What do I need to know?
This deck is my psychic tarot.
Ooh. Okay. Wait, who made those cards?
This is by John Holland.
Okay.
Oops. And these are like really hard to, okay. And I always kind of like, I'm shuffling here.
I see. I see. Are you going to take it from the top or the middle or the bottom? Or are you just going to let one jump?
So I like for them to jump.
Okay, good. Me too. We are the same on so many levels, Amy.
I like a jumper. Let's see if I can get one to jump. And if I can't, I'll just grab one.
Okay.
Okay. Oh,
What is it?
you ready?
I'm totally ready. I'm like,
So transformation.
ooh, she looks like Wonder Woman.
Transformation. She's a beautiful butterfly. I don't even have to tell you like what the book says, right? You're just in this period of transformation. Do you agree with
Yeah.
that?
100%. Woo woo.
So that's your card. Transformation.
But let's just say this, Amy.
What?
I think that we're in transformation together. I
Mhm.
think that's a card for both of us.
Okay, I agree. I really agree. In her background of the card, there she's got wings like a butterfly, and for some reason, I have been seeing butterflies like crazy for the last month. So I would agree with that.
I saw my first butterfly of the season while I was up at Trinity teaching my retreat. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
all about the butterfly.
yeah. So Tammy, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. This was great.
That. And so anyone that's watching it, I will put whatever, notes. I'll put Tammy's information in the comments or the description. And thank you so much for watching. And